I went to the Rose City Gun Show today in Portland, Oregon. I took both of my sons. My main goal when I went today was to find one of the new shields from Smith & Wesson. I bought a couple other things while I was there that I didn't plan on buying that I may do videos about later, but my main goal was to go out with my sons, find one of the new shields, like I said, from Smith & Wesson. I did find them. In fact, I found several of them, which was surprising to me because I've been having trouble even finding one to even see or hold or look at up until now, and then saw several of them at the gun show today. So I got my first actually hands-on look at them. That was the good news. The good news was I found them. The bad news is it wasn't the love at first sight that I thought it would be. Now, when I first saw the shields on the table, I was pretty excited. I've been looking for one of these for a long time. Really been wanting one since they first came out. Haven't been able to find one. Had several dealers looking for me. Couldn't find it. So seeing them there in person for the first time, I've never held one before even, was pretty exciting. But that quickly faded when I picked up the gun. And there were several reasons why that happened. Now the first thing I noticed when I picked the gun up is when you look at the gun, I mean, you see right through it to the other side. I mean, you see the springs, you see everything. Now, I know a lot of guns have that spacing. A lot of polymer guns have that little space you can see through. But for some reason, on the M&P Shield, all of the ones I picked up, it just seemed huge. Like the space was just gigantic. I mean, it just seemed like it was a mile across. And I was like, wow, that's just not attractive. It doesn't look good to me. Now, also another thing I had a problem with it was I really did not like the safety on it. I just can't stress that enough. When I picked it up, played with the safety, it just felt unnatural. It just felt unneeded. It was just like, why is this here? The only reason I can figure it's there is to meet some safety requirements for California or something, so they don't have to make two different models. But it just did not seem like something that should be there on a striker-fired gun. It just seemed wrong. I mean, I'm not a person who's not opposed to safeties usually. I don't prefer them myself. But if they make sense on a gun, they make sense. And in this case, it just didn't seem to make sense. Another problem I had with it was that it just didn't feel as sturdy as what I expected it to feel. I have an M&P and it feels really sturdy to me. It feels more substantial than a Glock, just feels more solid, better put together. So I kind of expected that same feel in the Shield. I expected a gun that would feel like the Walther PPS feels. But it does not feel that way. It feels more, I don't want to say that it was Kel-Tec-y feeling, but it was more like feeling like, it felt like a Taurus pistol in my hand. It just didn't have the same feel that I expected of it. And the final little thing that bothered me about the gun, and now this is really, subjective and just something that bothers me, is the dust cover at the front of the pistol. The way it's angled and shaped and just got some odd little cuts to it, it just looks like, did they make a mistake? Did this melt? What was, why is this shaped like this? It just doesn't look like it's following any natural form or function. The shape just doesn't seem like it should be shaped that way. So there were quite a few things there that I just disliked immediately when I picked up the gun, and I was really surprised by that. I really was expecting to just love this gun, and it just didn't happen. Now, the gun did have some good points too. The first thing I'll say I really liked was that the gun was smaller than I thought it was going to be. When I was reading the dimension and everything, it didn't seem like it was going to be that tiny, but when you see it in person, it is actually much smaller than you might expect. It was much smaller than my Smith & Wesson M&P 40C, and I was expecting there to be not much difference. But when you really hold it in your hand, you really can feel a difference in the size. It seems much smaller. Now, when holding in your hand is another thing I noticed about that I really liked. The grip is very comfortable for a small gun. I've owned a lot of small guns, and the grips are something you just tolerate and adjust to. You adapt to the small grips. They're nothing you really usually love. This was actually a pretty good grip for a small gun. It was a little large for a small gun, though, a little long. So that probably contributed a lot to its comfort, but it was a very comfortable gun. I also really liked the controls on the side. They seemed well thought out. They seemed substantial. I just didn't like the safety. But as far as the slide release, things like that, just seemed really nice. The takedown lever. It seemed like a really thought out gun, like someone put some time into designing it. If it wasn't for that weird shape at the front, it would seem like someone put a lot of time in designing it. But so there were things about the gun that I really liked. The sights were nice. It was nice and thin. Just a lot of things I really liked about the gun. But in the end, the things I didn't like kind of outweighed the things I did like, and I decided to walk away today without buying one. Now, I may change my mind later because I've got a chance to go shoot one. I'm going to have a chance to go shoot one this weekend, and I'll see what I think about that after I shoot it. But for right now, I decided not to buy one, and there's one really big reason why I decided not to buy one. and that's because I already own one of these. This is my Smith & Wesson, or excuse me, this is my SIG P290. So, I already have this. I thought, why would I get the Smith & Wesson? Why would I get it? This is just as thin, and actually at the frame, at the slide, it's thinner. It's 0.05 inches thinner than the Smith & Wesson. It's shorter lengthwise, it's shorter heightwise, holds one less round, and isn't quite as comfortable to hold. It's one of those grips you adapt to. But as far as a 9mm carry pistol goes, I mean, it just seems better made. It's smaller. It's just as reliable to me. I like the double action only trigger on this gun just as much as I would a striker fired trigger. I mean, it's a very nice trigger. Really has worn in nicely since I've been shooting the gun quite a bit. But because I have this, I just couldn't justify the Shield. Now, like I say, I might think differently after I shoot it, but as for now, I consider this to be better. Now, this is more expensive. This is a couple of $100 more expensive. But if you already have one of these, I probably wouldn't buy a Shield. If you already have a car, a CM9, a PM9, anything like that, I probably wouldn't see a reason to buy the Shield. Now it'll be up to your own personal preferences, but what I saw today, just looking at it objectively, well, of course subjectively because I'm looking at it from my own opinion, but trying to be as objective as possible, I just didn't see a reason to justify it when I already have a gun like this, and I wouldn't be able to justify it for anybody else if they already had a gun, like I said, like a car or SIG or something along those lines. If you don't have a small gun already, yeah, it's probably a pretty good gun. You may not be bothered by the things I was bothered by. But if you have other options, I just don't see it as a top choice.